Hello, everyone. So, I figured since my new player perspective series is coming to the end, I just wrapped everything up. It was 49 episodes long, and then I uploaded the credits as well because I thought they were neat and just to showcase everyone who was involved with the game. I figured I'd do pros and cons. Is it worth to buy for 95 Canadian dollars, as well as, since I am Canadian, I'll be going with Canadian prices. End game perspective, how much content there is, what is everything that everyone's saying true, with what everyone is saying. So let's go over my perspective of the storyline. I love the story, except the end there where we had to escort, the one woman with 12 guards. That didn't really fit in really well, especially for a big battle, and there's only like 12 guards and stuff. And there's a couple scattered all over the city, but it was supposed to be this like, big battle, especially from the CGI. I love that CGI fight anyways. That was actually really good. But they could have did that better. They could have delayed us, and then we kind of missed a bit. They could have even had like the angel flying over and still take the ruin from us. But that fight just wasn't really up to par with the rest of the game. Uh, I felt so they should have changed that. They should have did it differently. Like that, the boss battles were fine there, and it started off strong with the battle ram. And I said, oh yeah, they actually laid siege and seeing like siege weapons and stuff leading into the city. But then all the demons still around inside the city, and so they could have delayed us anyways by even throwing in those boss battles. We get to, knocked down to the sewers, or we have to actually sneak into the sewers. Who knows? Maybe the guards wouldn't let us pass. That delays us, and then we get there after the fight, and we see the whole fight scenario like they did. They could have did it better, I figured. I love the side stories. The side stories were awesome, especially with how they did this part here. So if anyone knows this location, they should know the side stories that were involved with this location. It's the church. It's the in the beginning cinematics. I love that story. I loved going through and seeing the priests and telling how the other priests at the start that you saw during the opening cinematic, was involved, and they actually went through that whole story, and that was actually one of my favorite side stories. Out of everything, the other side stories were with the girl from the swamp here as well. So the swamp actually had some of the best side stories in my opinion. As you can see, I have completed every section of the map. I've 100%ed all of the waypoints, the strongholds, the side quests, and something else that I recorded that I'll throw in at the end of this video, if I remember, is there's actually side stories that are not marked as part of here, because I was 49 out of 49, and there was a side quest here that actually was right up here after I did a dungeon. And there was also one up, I believe it's right here in Dry Steps, that was also not in there. So I don't know, because they did an update on the 16th, or well, we were able to actually download it, I think, on the 18th, which would have been yesterday. Today's the 19th. This video will be going up today as well. And what I would like to say is, yeah, so I don't know if those are part of the update, the side stories, or if they are just secret side stories, because or if they just forgot to update or have the right amount up here. But I found a couple side stories, two of them so far, that were not uh, in here as the count. And when I completed them, it didn't update, it didn't put up. But I completed a dungeon. I got one here, and then there was another one up here that I got, and yeah, those are the only two, because the other one was actually part, I believe, of one. But this one actually started. It was the same woman, I believe, from a dungeon that was actually around here somewhere. So I do have some knowledge about the game now. I've actually tried and had some trial and error with gear and builds. I do have a couple concerns. One is what everyone's been saying, and these are what the hardcore, as well as a couple of the non-hardcore players have been saying, which is the lack of inventory. So whenever I do a dungeon, I always fill up this inventory twice. So I always town out and then come back, and then I, sell it for gold. I just spent 50 million gold on my gear, and my gear isn't like the best gear. I'm level 81. So the content from like everything that I just said, all the side quests and everything out here in the map, the main quest and everything, up to the point where you beat Elias. If you did everything with that, which isn't like the good, if you're a speedrunner, don't do that. I'm going to explain why here in a second. But the content ends at level 71. I was level 71 when I completed everything and beat Elias and got into world tier 4. So if you count by experience, the number of experience and stuff, it's going to be around 50%, because the more you level, the more experience you need to level compared to the lower levels. So it's about 50% or a bit higher than that worth of actual content. So now that I've beat Elias and ended up on world tier 4 and at 71, level 71, I've been grinding nightmare dungeons, which gets repetitive. So there are other stuff that I've been actually doing, which is, my achievements. And I did lose a hardcore character at level 12 because of lag, unfortunately, which level 12 and stuff, I don't care about that. So you can do achievements, and that's something I've been doing. So I'll run, a couple hours of nightmare dungeons, and then I'll switch and do, some challenges. Then I'll switch it up and do other stuff as well, such as trying to get appearances and cosmetics. I'll switch it up and hop on one of my hardcore characters. So with all the classes, so is there 5 or 6 classes? I can't remember, but I have this character, and then I have a druid that I'd started on Eternal as well, and then I have 2 bank characters because my stash here, like everyone's been saying, we've been lacking on storage on the stash, which they said that they will be actually increasing in 3 months when season 2 comes out. Hopefully they'll put it in sooner, but they plan to put more storage in for season 2, which is every season is about 3 months. So in 3 months, they'll be doing that. But we need more character space, because with those 6, I think I have 6 hardcore characters. I have 2 storage, or is it 5 hardcore characters, 2 storage. I have my druid, and then this one, yes. And then I have 1 empty one. So with the achievements and with the character spaces, you have 10 character spaces. With the achievements, you need 5 hardcore characters, and you tend to have to get them up to 50. But then with hardcore, you also have to at least get one up to 100. You might have to get all up. I'll have to double check the achievements, but getting them up to 100, and then doing like nightmare dungeons, you have to beat Uber Lilith on hardcore and stuff. So I was going to actually make another hardcore, so I'd get those ones up to just 100, and then I was going to make kind of a throwaway account to get up to 100. That way, if it dies and I lose it, I still have one of each class that's still good, that I can keep. And the throwaway one is, if it dies, then I don't care. But you can always pop those pots. They do have pots now that you can actually pop, so they last about 30 minutes. If you die, then you gotta wait about 5 minutes, I think, before you can pop another one and it escapes death. So you can use that for Uber Lilith as well and stuff. So I might just actually stock up on those and then try with just the 5 that I have. But I would like to have a throwaway one. But with seasons and how they have the achievements, you have your 5 hardcore class characters. You have this one here, the main one that you've been using since the release, and season 1 comes out here tomorrow. And then you have, a lot of people have bank characters, and then they'll have like another character. That only leaves you 1 slot for seasonal characters, and I want to play a different class every season. So they need to have, in my opinion, at least 14, 15 different character slots for characters. That's something that they can improve on, hopefully, and add in later. So there's that. There's the storage space. The Storyline, like I said, so for the content, they only have about half a character's level up to max worth of content, which is lacking. And the bosses, the end game bosses, I've been doing end game bosses, Nightmare Dungeons, Legion, a whole bunch of different things for gear mainly, but I haven't been able to get gear, and that's another issue. And so bosses first, I want to get on to that since I actually mentioned that. They supposedly have only three endgame bosses. They're simple mechanics, they're easy. I haven't died on them yet. You stand behind them or stand under them or avoid the beam. Simple, and don't step in the poison or the toxic. And they are supposed to take 15 minutes, but when you have a couple level 100s there, they die within 60 seconds. So they're not like challenging at all. They're pretty simple. And it's I've only actually seen two of the three bosses because the other one, like I've been going to all these boss locations and stuff, but I have yet to be on or see the third boss. I know there is a third one because I have actually seen some YouTube videos. I went and watched them on the different bosses that they had just to see the mechanics. So when I went in there, I didn't be, be the noob that dies right away. So they lack end game content. The tree, and so here I'm going to give some positives and negatives here as well. Let me just knock that off. The tree here, Tree of Whispers, everyone knows it. So I did an achievement here where I had to do it 100 times. I only got one piece of gear that was slightly better than what I had out of here. The rest, it just felt like a drag to do the Tree of Whispers because you don't get anything good. At least I didn't. I got like a mount or an appearance for a mount out of it, which was like the only good thing that I got out of it. And I think I actually got, well, no, I think the other thing was just an aspect. So yeah, just an appearance for a mount or something out of here. But so everyone was saying like it's not good to do. It's tedious. So they bumped it up. So a day and a half ago they had an update and they changed a few things for the better. And they've actually been listening to the community, which is actually really good. They bumped up the Tree of Whispers. Supposedly, I just went and I actually did a grab from here. I didn't get anything good out of it still, but for Nightmare Dungeons, they bumped up the experience, which is actually really good because I had just started doing Nightmare Dungeons a few days beforehand. So now I can actually tell as well that I'm getting a bit more experience points from it. The bosses, now they drop three rares. So I have more of a chance and people have more of a chance to get better gear from that. Helltide is broken at the moment. They even said like it's not supposed to be the way that it is because they made it harder to farm a certain chest, but it's about 250 cinders for it. But then they accidentally lowered the cinders somehow or screwed up with the cinders so that the players, like you'd kill one full group of mobs and you'd get one cinder. You'd kill the boss and get 8 cinders. And it's just like, what the heck? And so people, even Asmongold, I was watching a video this morning, he ran through, got like 38 or whatever cinders and was like, yeah, no, I'm out. So it's screwed up at the moment. And plus, I stopped doing the Helltide because I wasn't getting anything from it and it was dragging out too long for me to try to keep doing that rather than, get experience running. I was getting better stuff from and better chances, more stuff and more gold and more experience from running Nightmare Dungeons or, going and doing a boss or whatever. And it's just, there's no point in me doing Helltide because I'm not getting anything from it. That's worth more than other content out there. And plus, with how they have the cinders now and they screwed up with the cinders, I'm not going to spend the whole hour grinding for one box. So, like I said, they said it's messed up at the moment. They're going to fix it. So everyone's waiting for them to fix it before they go back and keep trying for what they're trying because at the moment it's not worth it. So hopefully they fix that really quickly here. Hopefully in a day they'll have it fixed. So gear and stats, and for me to be trying what I'm trying. So a lot of people say like sorcerers are glass cannons, and yes, we're not supposed to be the front line. We're not supposed to be barbarians. We're not supposed to be tanks. We're not supposed to be druids and all this stuff. But I was watching a lot of the people that have been complaining, or people posting pictures complaining about different aspects or different things of the game. Some people, like I said, I agree with a lot of stuff, the stash. I agree with like certain monster leveling, scaling, and I agree with quite a bit of stuff. The Tree of Whispers not giving stuff, or certain loot, the Silence chest. A lot of people were saying the Silence chest, and it's like, why am I paying like 20 of the uh, bubbles or whatever they call them, just to get nothing good out of it. So, which is another good thing. They buffed them, so they buffed the silence chests. So I had opened a couple, and I didn't get anything good out of it. So I don't know. But I haven't been finding too much. I haven't been running around the open world as much because I've been, grinding other stuff. But supposedly they buffed it as well, which is good. They're listening to the community. Blizzard's listening to the community, which is actually really good. So something that people have been saying is, like I said, the sorcerer is squishy. So I haven't been having any trouble with the sorcerer. It took me a mistake to learn what didn't work, which made me also learn what works. So I was watching a lot of people, a lot of streamers, a lot of YouTubers. I was checking out pictures online, and people were complaining. One complaint was, and hopefully you all agree with me. So when you do aspects, you tend to only do like the perfect aspect. So you deal 70% more damage to stun targets, and I am a lightning build. My build runs off of stuns. When I stun, I do major damage. So when I was actually watching a live stream, there was a sorcerer. Uh, she was, complaining how squishy she was, and she was 14 levels higher than I am. Uh, and she opened up her menu, and I saw that she only had 5,100 armor. I'm thinking, well, I'm level 81, and I have 5,400. I'm 300 more than her at my level. I'm 14 levels lower than her. And I'm like looking at other people's gear, and we're not supposed to be building like a whole bunch of defense, and that's what a lot of people complain about. You have to take 2 or 3 defense items, or skills, I should say. And so something else I notice is a lot of mages or sorcerers are building way too many different things, and it's like it can be confusing, especially for new players, on what to actually focus and everything like that. So like they were building, they were frost, but then they also had built fire damage and then damage with pyromancy. They had some thorns in there from their gear. They had vulnerable. They had not too much crit strike, but they had like critical strike damage. They had the intelligence. They had health. They had a whole bunch of stuff. So their gear was like all over the place. I'm thinking, well, like I went online and I looked what attributes or what can I get for the 4 roles on each gear, and I looked at the list of like different gear and different gear. You get different things, like you can get total armor, max mana, max life, all that stuff. So yeah, I was just looking up what all I could get on, and I wanted to focus on certain things, and I'd screwed up the build. I spent 3 million gold, which is nothing. You farm that easily back. Like you can farm gold like so quickly in this game. But so I spent 3 million gold, and I'm like, well, I do critical strike for chance for my stuns. Whenever I stun, I have a passive on the lightning uh, that does 3,100 more damage. When they're stunned, they can't attack, and a whole bunch of stuff. And I do major damage. I do damage to stun at 225. You get vulnerable damage, and then you get critical strike. So because when you crit, you get critical strike, and then with the lightning spear, you have a higher chance of stunning. There's a whole bunch of stuff with this build that just starts snowballing and snowballing, and so I was doing about 14 to 18k damage, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll do the gear, I'll spend some stuff, and I'll get my critical strike damage up, so when I crit, I do a whole bunch of more damage, and I'll get my int up to get my attack up. So I went from I can't remember what int I was at, but I went up to like close to 900, 1,000 intelligence. And then my critical strike was at almost 80%. My critical damage was at almost at 80%. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of damage, you know, and I took off some vulnerable percentage. So the vulnerable damage here, I had took that off and it dropped down to basically the bare minimal. It was like at 20, 26 or 20% or whatever it was at. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into the dungeon. I'm going to test this build. I went in there. I dropped down from doing 14 to 18k to doing 10k. I'm like, what the hell? Like, my intelligence is up, which increases my skill damage. My attack power is up. You know, my crit damage is up. I dropped like 4 to 8k damage. Like, what's going on? And so I was thinking, like, well, I took vulnerability off and I took a little bit of like damage with stun, but like that shouldn't matter too much. Like that vulnerability shouldn't be like that much damage. I'm like, okay, well, I'll hop out of the dungeon, hopped out of the dungeon, and I redid the gear and I put vulnerable damage on my ring here, on this ring, and then I increased this when it was at 50%. It was this the basic imprint, and then, so I brought that up to 70%. And so basically I brought my vulnerable damage up 65%. And then I had added, so I removed a couple intelligence from there. And then what else did I do? You know, I added a couple imprints. So I added like this imprint off. You deal 30% increased damage to stun. And then I put this one on for the 25% barrier as well. And like this gear, like I said, like this one doesn't even have one. I'm maybe switching it because it has the 27 all stats, which I don't want. I actually want something else on there. You know, this one isn't as good as well because it has frost, pyro, and damage reduction from enemies that burns. I'm gonna keep this chest piece for if I do a pyromancer build, but this is all that I've been able to get at the moment. You know, grinding. You know, I've been after the gear that focuses on the attributes and the stats and what I want, but I haven't been able to get those. But I have actually focused on, you know, where I can. So, you know, damage to stun, vulnerable, lightning, crit strike, and strike chance. Like this is a god piece gear basically, and deal 25% while I have that barrier. So when I have ice armor up, you know, I deal that damage. And you know, I will switch like the passive on this one, this aspect later on, saying this one doesn't have one. So I'm going to be changing a few things around. But so I'm thinking like these people, they are focusing on way too many different stats. They're not focusing on the ones that they should actually be focusing on. And the ones that are saying they're squishy, you know, so like in the helmet, what you don't get many different attributes that can focus on certain aspects of your gear. So like some in the one that I was going to take, it has total armor is one. You know, you can take cooldown reduction, you can take max mana, you can take different things you can switch in. Like I said, I'm going to be switching out the all stats, but basically I'm going to be trying to take my main attribute, intelligence. I'm going to be taking where I can vulnerable and stuff. So as soon as I did that, as soon as I started taking vulnerable damage and getting rid of my crit damage, I got rid of my crit damage. I started taking vulnerable. I started taking a few other things here. So I gained 65% vulnerable damage. I lost my, I think I was up to 80%. So I lost 30% there. I gained 65 on vulnerable. I lost a couple on stunned, and then I lost a whole bunch of int. But then I gained, you know, a couple back for increased damage to stun as well. So it almost equals. So I think I was at like 230. So I lost pretty much 5 there. So with what I lost in that 300 almost, oh, it was about 230 intelligence and stuff, and I had lost. So I went down attack power. But then I went into the dungeon and I was doing 54,000 damage. It's like, holy moly, like I went from doing 14, 18 to doing 10. Figured out like, okay, that didn't work because I removed those, but like you think it would work, like critical strike would be really good. It's not that good from what I figured out. And so now I went from doing 14, 18K to doing 54K to elites, and it's like, holy crud, like now I'm running through these dungeons and this like melt and everything. It's like, okay, well, I can bump myself up dungeon levels, I guess. Nightmare dungeons. So I figured out like what wouldn't work, and it's like I was squishy, but like from what all the stats I was reading, I planned on taking like total armor or damage reduction, which is right here, damage reduction, plain damage reduction. So there's a couple different things with damage reduction. So I'm not going to go totally into a build until I actually have something more better, but like there's different types of damage reduction. So I go for the plain damage reduction, which is all across the board, which is, I could get up to 10.7 here. But when you go for something that's like something like plain that's all across the board, like resist to all elements, it's lower than what you would get if you went for a certain type. So like resistance to lightning is going to be better, like higher up than resistance to all for that certain thing. So what I mean is the number bracket. So this is like say 24.8 to all, or if you get something like that has lightning resistance, it's 35% to lightning. So you get that the extra percent, right? But in my opinion, because there's so much different like poison, shadow, cold, lightning, fire, and whatever else. Yeah, the cold, which would be frost. Like this is better, like resistance to all or reduction to all damage is better than just plain lightning resistance or fire resistance. uh Here's cold and shadow here, which is actually really good. So I actually got like lightning, fire, cold, and shadow on here, but you're missing like one, which is I believe poison, which actually hurts me a lot. So like something that all across the board is something that I've been taking, and there's actually a couple of pieces of gear that I will also be focusing on with I think another piece for total armor as well. But because I'm getting more armor and because I'm focusing on a set, damage to stun, damage with lightning, and vulnerable with the critical strike chance, and then int as my main attribute, I'm dealing a lot more damage, and I can take that defense or that cooldown reduction in the pieces that I can't get certain things in for damage, where it's more defensive items that you get and ranks to certain skills like chain lightning. I get that better armor, that better damage reduction. I'm not as squishy. I'm still doing a whole bunch of damage. And a lot of people, like I said, they're focusing on so much different things with like frost and cold damage, frost damage, damage with pyro, damage with fire, damage to vulnerable, critical strike, and then they have thorns, and then they have their main attribute, and so on and so on. Some of weapon speed, because they took fire and all this stuff. And like I'm looking at these people and it's like you're focusing on way too much. And even though even then you're still going to be squishy. So I'm not going to say you're a tank and you're going to go in there and just be able to tank everything. You're still going to be squishy. You're a sorcerer. You're not meant to be a tank. But people are focusing on way too much. And so it took me that mistake to learn what is working, what is not. And like I said, I over doubled my damage, which is insane. And so like I'm still a new player. I'm still figuring things out. And then so there's people on the forums, another person, was complaining about certain things. So there's an actual aspect. There's a few aspects that they'll cast extra skills, but those skills will be percented down to like oh, they deal 10% more damage, less damage, 20% more damage, less damage, sorry, less damage when it's cast the second time. So people, like there was one person that was complaining on the forums that, oh, this, how is, like, this is broken, it doesn't work. It's not a perfect aspect. Whenever I do aspects, I try to get the perfect one. So 70% out of 70%. And so on, so that it's like perfect. Like that's not perfect. I didn't imprint that one. That's just what I got with it. But like this one's perfect, 6%. But I didn't put. This is what I got, and this is why I put this on here. But you know what I mean. Get the highest percent one. That's the one I make in aspects because it's either going to cost 170,000 or 400,000 to make that aspect. So I don't want to waste money. If it's not a perfect aspect, I break it down. I get the materials, which is also really good. Um, so we like anyone that's actual like hardcore at the game knows just do it to perfect aspects. So this person, is complaining on the forums. You look at it, it's one of those ones that cast a different one. They're trying to put it on the staff, like another. It was a fire one, so it's not that lightning ball one, but the one for the fire. They're like, yeah, I'm trying to put it on the staff, and it goes from damage reduction from, and it wasn't a perfect one. The perfect one I think was at like 10%, and they had their or 12%, and they had theirs at like 14, so it's two off. They're like, yeah, when I put it on this staff, it goes up to 24 or 28% from the what it is. So now I'm doing 28 instead of 14% less, and uh, a whole bunch of stuff like that. There was complaining about it. It's like, well, first of all, it's not perfect. You could have, instead of 28, you could have had it at 20% instead of that 10 or that, yeah, 24, whatever it was. Only make aspects out of the perfect gear unless it's something that I don't have or you don't have. Maybe they didn't have it. Maybe it's like this, which I haven't imprinted on. I'm trying to get a better one, but this is the only one I have with additional two times. And it's like, second, don't be putting it on your weapon. Put it on something else, not your weapon. And there's certain things that only will go into certain items. Like this one was actually supposed to be having one of these ones here that I have, not that one. It was either this one, or maybe it was one of the other ones. Because you can only put certain ones on certain gear. And so you have to like find out, like it's like a hand of cards, which one will fit into which one, and if they don't, then it takes it out. Like this one here, you deal because I have a different one that's supposed to be in there, and if I had one of these ones, whichever one it was in here, then uh, I'm going to not be able to put the one that I actually want into one of these because it gets jumbled up. So you have to basically plan ahead. And so yeah, they're trying to put it in. It's like, well, don't put it in there, or else you're gonna take that, 28%. Also, if you made the perfect one, you're doing that 20% or 24% less, not 28, and so on and so forth. And it's like them not knowing, or them being new players, and they're complaining how the game or this aspect of the game is broken when it's not actually broken. It's like, just put it on different gear, get a perfect one, and you'll be doing 12% less or 10% less. That's all, rather than that 28% less. It's like, it's not the game's fault that that's happening. It's because you're putting it on the wrong gear. You don't have the perfect aspect, and so on and so forth. It's like, it's not the game's fault. It's either you just don't know better, or you don't have the right one. You're trying to rush things, so on, and that's not the game's fault. So, anyways, yeah, trial and error, and I actually got a pretty good build, and I'm hoping, like I said, this is like, I do have pieces that are like this boots, 686, and another pro and negative I'm going to talk about is gear drop here in a second. But this one here, like max evade charges is really good. Mana cost, the intelligence, the stat is this stat is actually supposed to be, I think, is it supposed to be on the boots, or it's maybe, but I want evade charges. Evade charges are really good, especially for a sorcerer. And you can take speed, and some stuff like this one increases movement speed. You can move freely, but I don't have unstoppable. And I don't plan on taking unstoppable, so I was actually going to put something else in here. But these boots are 686. I haven't been able to get anything better for boots. Uh, but when I do, I'm going to be going up like 136 or whatever armor. So that's more armor. I want the evade charges so I can evade. And there's a lot of people I'm watching. They're like, oh yeah, I get stun locked, or I get whatever. And there's like mobs that raise their hands and slam down and all this stuff. It's like, dash out of it. Take teleport. if you get rooted by spiders, by anything, and as long as it doesn't cancel your skills, even the freezing, if you get frozen with those wind ice wall things, if your teleport's up, you can teleport away. Something good about the 6%. Plus, there's a passive I have that's 5%. You can get up to 15. But with that, I have a 6% chance, at least, from what I can think of, 11% chance of my defensive items proccing every hit. And they proc often, like really often. And if your teleport's up, or if it comes up, you can, if you're rooted, you can simply teleport and it will break that root. It breaks the root, you become immune. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and a lot of people I talk to don't know that they get rooted, their teleport's up, but they don't know that they can actually teleport out of the root. So they basically is take their hands off the keyboard and they give up and they're like, I'm dead, I'm stun locked. It's like teleport. It's just new people being new people. There's a lot of stuff. I didn't realize that until like level 60 that my teleport like actually got me out of those. That it could break a root or certain stuns even. As long as it's not a skill canceling stun, you're good. So that's new people being new people and stuff. But item drops, let's talk about those. And this is kind of the final thing that I'll talk about here because this video is getting pretty long. And like I said, I could go into a whole bunch of in-depth stuff. Item drops is broken. It's a negative in my opinion. I'm running Nightmare Dungeons. I'm doing endgame bosses. I'm doing Legion. I'm at level 81 and I'm still getting item power 620 drops. Blues, grays. There's no reason why at level 81 I should be getting item power 620 on world tier 4, running bosses, world bosses I should say, running nightmare dungeons, doing Helltide, and getting 620 blues, grays, you name it, and just like rares and this like crud gear. They need to bump it up so that if you're level 80, you're only getting 700 plus. Even that I would be happy with, you know, and rare with legendary and uniques, you know. But they need to change the item drops. I don't care about like some people were arguing, and this is like, like that's the thing that I'm talking about is they say that the roof and ceiling for the percentage should be higher so that you're not getting like the lowest percentage. So for like intelligence that you're not getting that 42 instead of 42, and it could be like 50 to 63 or something like that, or even raise the ceiling so that it's at level 80 or whatever, or item power with their item power. If it's like an 800, it's like for intelligence, it's like 50 to 73 or like 52 to 73. Like that doesn't have to happen, but I'd just be happy if I'm not getting these low items, low drops, doing all these runs constantly just to get like nothing, no new gear. Like I said, I've had this gear for so long. Even running 100 tree whispering trees, I only got like, and that's where I think I got this which was slightly better than what I had. So I threw it on. But like the item drops are just terrible at like end game. They need to do something with it. I don't care about them, like I said, messing with that, but just the item power as well as certain not collecting certain getting certain things. They need to make it higher. And then at level like 90 or whatever, maybe you only get like 740 plus even, or whatever, you know, like item power, because item power does matter for certain things like thorns, damage, and armor. And if you're getting those only higher ones, sure, you get more armor and stuff, but then you have better chance to reach that bracket at 620. You know, this bracket for all the attributes are lower than if it's at 725. And that's a trick you can do too. When like the gear that I had when I beat Eliza was pretty much that at that 725, because I would have that 700 gear. I don't know if I have any of it now. I think it was my Gaunts that was like 700. You can actually bump it up. So like uh, if you have like a 600 gear and you bump it up to that plus 25 item power, you bump it up to that new bracket. And so you're getting more. So that's how I like beat Eliza's at like a minute and 40 seconds without even having a pot, is because I was at the higher bracket at level 71 as well. And which I realized after that I could have actually faced him a lot sooner now it was a recommended level, and that's me being a new player. And I was saying like, oh man, like these mobs are easy, they should make it so you can do Eliza's like a lot lower, level 60 even. And then I was told, yeah, you know, that's a recommend. It's like, what? It's a recommended. So it's like and then I had just beat them. It's like, you mean I could have went and faced them earlier? And they're like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, you know, that's my fault. I'm a new player. And they should have said recommended. And I don't think they did. It said like level 70, which was the recommended level, but I could have been facing him sooner. And that's on me, you know. I'm a new player, and this is a whole new player perspective series, and everyone's joining me as a as me being a new player, and actually giving my thoughts as a gamer. And like I said, I like the story, I liked a whole bunch of stuff, but they're lacking end game content. That's been discussed on the forums. A lot of people and everyone's been discussing that. They need more than 3 world bosses. The stash needs to be improved. Drops, they like I said, they've actually been listening to the community. The whisper tree drops have supposedly been increased. The dungeons are given more experience now. It used to actually be faster for me to run around the open world and get experience and item drops than doing nightmare dungeons. But like with nightmare dungeons, you know, you get the glyph experience. So it's like, man, I can either get like really good experience, faster drops, more gold, or I can go run nightmare dungeons and upgrade my glyphs. But yeah, so that's kind of my thought on the game. Hopefully they increase the stash enough at season 2. Hopefully they do it a bit sooner. Sooner would be better. They need more character slots. 10 is not enough, especially if you're doing seasonal, especially with the achievements where you need to have all those hardcore characters as well. They need to, well, they are increasing the better drops in silence chests, which was an issue. Like, not sure if I mentioned in this video or not. Silence chests had an issue. These weren't worth picking up or spending the obols on, or whatever they're called, because they just weren't dropping good things. Uh, so they increased that. They increase the experience with the nightmare dungeons, which is a pro, you know, that's a thing. Helltide at the moment isn't really good. They're fixing that because they messed that up again, which is like a second time. If you remember the uniques, whoever remembers that. So they are fixing stuff, and those are everything that I've talked about, pros, cons, and when I play the other classes a bit more, I can give more insight in that, and when I perfect the gear, which it's going to take for a long time, which is, you know, I'm actually hyped to try to go for that staff that casts a random shrine. I think it's a 20% chance to cast the shrine ability. Hopefully, you know, I can cast that 20%, getting a conduit or getting artillery or lethal. Like that's going to be amazing. If you get one with lethal, you know, you can probably take off that crit, build something else with it. You know, 1 in a million drop, uber unique. So let's talk about the future of the channel, and this is the last thing I'll talk about for this video since the video is getting longer. The future of the channel is I still want to keep playing. I still would like to work on this character, but it's the 19th. Tomorrow is the season 1. I do have the battle pass. I did, you know, spend the money. And by the way, 95 Canadian dollars. Like I said, it's worth it for this game. If you think of like how much you're going to be spending on movies or other entertainment, you know, going to a park, a theme park and stuff for the amount of hours, you know, you get more bang for your buck doing this if this makes you happy, the story and everything's good. So yes, it's worth the 95 bucks in my opinion. I'm happy with my purchase. And as someone who loves, and with the graphics, like the graphics and stuff are good, the pros outweigh the cons. The future of my channel is I'm going to be doing the season 1. I'm going to be starting a new character. I will like to do a PvP character with my new character. which is probably going to be something with thorns. And so a warrior, I believe, gets the most thorns, but I might be wrong, but I know they get like 400 or something like that, or 350, 450 or something. There are other classes that get thorns as well. I think, was it Necromancer might get thorns as well, but I was thinking a warrior build or a necro build. Probably a warrior though. I would like something with poisons as well, so I want to do like a thorns and poison build for PvP. So I actually want to build a character for PvP and on season 1, and I will be doing season 1, and I will be doing uh all of the quests again, and I would like to actually make tutorials on every quest. I know there's already videos out there for all the quests, but you know, something to put up on my channel as well, and to have like a archive of my own for all the quests as well, and any bugs that come up for those quests that you need to, you know, drop it and wait till there's no event in the area and stuff like that, and just, you know, walk through that as well. So I will be still doing Diablo content. I do want to also, so when I play and I get up to, you know, a certain level where it's going to be a bit harder to grind gear, and I would like to actually record also the hardcore stuff that I'm doing as well, and then, you know, doing all the hardcore content. So there is quite a bit, and so I will be still doing Diablo content. I would like to also hop in and do some Age of Empires content for the channel as well. I have Age of Empires 1, 2, and 3. I would like to also do maybe some Command Conquer and some other stuff, making some videos for that. And then depending on, you know, how that's going, I might jump back into this one just to farm a little bit or do a couple things. We'll see what all quests and what everything, you know, I will continue. Oh wait, no, because it's, well, yeah, you should be able to still do seasonal stuff here too as well. Some stuff, not everything, but I'll hop back on this character just to do some stuff. I'll continue with the hardcore, and I'll try the 100% the challenges. That's something that I want to try to do, 100% the challenges. I want to get all the appearances that are not in the shop around the open world, which I'm close to doing. For the sorcerer, I have 2 more on, I think, all the pieces of gear. So 2 more sets, and I'm done the sorcerer's appearance. And I'll work on all the other character classes appearance. So I want 100% appearances, everything that you don't need to purchase coins with. And yeah, I'll be working on the battle pass. I have that, and I'll probably drop enough coin in. I think I need to drop like 600 coin or $5 basically for the next season, since I have leftover coin. So I might do that as well for the next season. Well, I'll wait till later on to do that. So that's basically what I'm doing with the channel, and I do have a Instagram up, not an Instagram, TikTok channel up that I've actually posted some Diablo content. I'll put the link down in the description there if anyone wants to check that out as well. But I'm going to keep playing. Yes, the pros outweigh the negatives, and they are listening to the community. Blizzard is listening to the community. This is a good game. It's worth it, in my opinion. I love the game. There's certain things, like I said, a lot of the people that say certain things are too new or don't really understand it or don't have the knowledge about it. And there are people who do make good points as well. Like, and I do agree with that. Like I've said, I agree with the stash. I agree with more character slots. I agree with the drops, item drops not being up to par. I agree with the Tree of Whispers, the Silence Chest, and stuff that people have been saying. And some people have also said about because the resistance, you know, not being up to par and stuff, and they're dying, they're getting too much damage, and like what they didn't realize for me anyways, was I was taking a lot more melee damage, and that's armor basically. So like resistance, I was fine with resistance, like all the resistance stuff. I was fine with. For me, it was the melee damage, and it was like because my armor was low. And oh, by the way, if you haven't heard the official soundtrack, I know a lot of people have their music on, but just for YouTube, so I don't get copyright strike. I have my music off, but I've been listening to the full soundtrack for Diablo 4. They do an amazing job. Check it out. If you haven't, the soundtrack is amazing. The voice dialogue, the custom animations that they have for a lot of the characters are awesome, especially for the side stories and stuff. They need more events, is something else I'm not sure if I mentioned. They need more events, different ones. They need more bosses I've already talked about and stuff. If they add all that stuff in, you know, that would be amazing. The graphics are good, but and the servers need to be more stable. That's another con. The servers depend on what time of day and everything, and it's been getting worse as the time's been going on from the server release. Disconnects constantly, especially if you're in a nightmare dungeon. You disconnect, that sucks because you don't get like the pot back for it. The servers need to be more stable. Today it's actually been really stable. I don't think I've lagged or disconnected once today so far. So hopefully it's better, but they need to do something about that too, because that sucks when you get disconnected during Nightmare Dungeon or constant lag. Some days you'll just be rubber banding so bad. And it's like with a big game like this, a big title like this, with a big company like Blizzard, it should not be happening. So that's something I really want to see fixed more than anything is the server stability. The character in the stash, and the drops. Those are the ones I want to see, and more end game content because they only have like half of characters grow to 100 worth of content. So yeah, thanks for watching this series, and I'll see you all on the start of the next chapter and on my channel here and on the series. And I appreciate everyone that's been watching, and it's just been amazing, this game and this experience, and thank you all, and I'll see you all next time.
Yes, indeed. Truthfully, our victory against Mephisto left me emboldened. I lingered at the fort, managing to find some partial record of the paladins who stayed there. I aim to carve the name of every paladin into stone, though it seems I may need to find another plaque soon. There were attempts, yes. Some could not believe, and others, I think, chose not to believe. But we were able to gather additional markers, and this plaque here. It is not much. I wish I could do more. But I hope that this at least means future generations will learn of their sacrifice.